Upper Room Life. You're certainly in for a surprise. We got some guests and some God and some good times. It's the Upper Room.
Hi everyone, really hope that you've been having a good week. The weather hasn't been as great last week, but I promise you this week is going to be much better. It's going to be 30 degrees by Wednesday, yes. So this week is slightly different. If you've been listening to the Upper Room Live, great, thanks for joining us. This week is actually going to be a special edition, and we're going to be listening from a lady called Irene, and that's one of Woody's really good friends, and Woody will tell you a bit more about her. But Irene is an absolute inspiration to listen to. She has so many amazing stories that I promise you'll be able to resonate with. So sit back, relax, grab a coffee, put your phones down and enjoy listening to Irene. Over to Woody.
Well, welcome to the big interview on the Upper Room Live, and we've got an absolute treat for you today. None other than my old colleague, long-suffering old colleague, Rev Irene Wilson. I recently did the Pause for Thought on Radio 2 and Zoe Ball's Radio 2 Breakfast Show, and talked about Irene because she was recently honoured by Her Majesty the Queen for her services to the local community, and she's just an amazing woman of compassion, and it sort of garnered quite a lot of interest from people wanting to hear more about her story. So I thought, brilliant, let's get her on. So welcome, Irene.
Hello, Matt, and hello, everyone.
Great, thanks so much for taking the time out, Irene. How are you, and how is lockdown for you? Where are you?
I'm right in the sticks outside, 17 miles outside Hull, and lockdown, it's okay, actually. It's amazing what I've caught up with, and I'm beginning to venture out now, so things are looking up.
Brilliant. So we worked together, Irene, for 7 years at Holy Trinity, now Hull Minster, where you still minister. Just try and sum up how special that was for you to work with me.
You continue to be vain. It was different. It was a very special time. We both got ordained together, didn't we? Which was amazing. I was quite concerned about this chap I'd heard about, this Matt Woodcock. But in fact, we hit it off from the start. And apart from a few ups and downs along the way, I think we taught each other a great deal. We rubbed off on each other.
Definitely. Good. I learned so much from you, Irene, and that's one of the reasons that I want to unpack a few things that I learned from working with someone like you. Just about how, we talk about being Christians and living out your faith, but actually that if we're going to do that in a kind of Jesus kind of way, that often is incredibly messy and often upsetting and disappointing and all the rest of it. It's not all sort of shiny Jesus hands in the air moments. It's deep down and dirty. So, but just before we get there, just tell us a little bit about your background, your working life, your family life.
Yeah, I was a teacher, but it was quite interesting, really, because when I was training to be a teacher, I was drawn to the additional needs side of children. So I've always had that passion for those that needed that little bit of extra care. And I've always gone down that road, and married and 3 great children and 4 grandchildren. So it's been a great journey. And I didn't become a Christian until I was teaching 25 years ago. And then I'd always gone to church and gone to Sunday school as a little one, but it was about 25 years ago when I had that really encounter with Jesus.
What happened, Irene?
It was through a school teacher that I was working with. He was a born-again Christian, and he drove me around the bend, really, talking about Jesus. But in the end, I had to give in and think, well, is there something in all this that he's telling me? And from there, it just escalated.
And was it sort of a longer term journey, or was it like a big flashing moment where you thought, yeah?
It was a bit of a journey, but I remember quite considerably how I had that prayer of commitment that's the back of that little green book that everybody had in those days. And I remember standing in the bedroom and reading that prayer and thinking, this is amazing. It's just like, and I always likened it to jumping off the diving board at Scarborough swimming pool into the water and coming out somebody different. And that's how it always sticks in my mind. It changed at that moment. Everything changed.
Wow. Right. So Irene, how do you, with all these kind of really challenging people that you're ministering to and difficult situations, how and coping with disappointment is a big thing, you know, not getting compassion fatigue. How have you combated that in your own ministry in life?
I think it is difficult. And the first time round when something went wrong after we put a lot of time into them, I was disappointed, but then I could either run away and not do it anymore, or I could try to make a difference and the little things. And I always believe that those little seeds that we sow at this time may grow and will grow later in life. And I believe that with a lot of the people that we've had contact with, we may never see the benefits.
And what always struck me as well with the kinds of people we were sort of encouraging to get involved in the life of the church in kind of practical ways and faith ways, you know, other people would kind of, it'd make church messy, wouldn't it? And difficult at times. I mean, what did you learn from that? Because often we've got to sort of help people on a journey to sort of reach out to the lost, and you know, what's your reflection on that?
I think you're right when you say it makes church messy, and a lot of people don't really want to see that. They want this perfect church where everybody wears a hat and turns up on a Sunday, and church isn't that. Church is so different. And I think sometimes you get quite drained and tired because you're always trying to fight to keep things going for those that are less fortunate. And it would be the easiest thing in the world to turn away, but you can't do that. As Christians, we can't do it. And sometimes you get yourself into really deep water trying to fight for those that you really care for. And I've done that a few times, and I still am doing it at the moment. But it's worth it. It's got to be.
And this was obviously put to the ultimate challenge for you, where one awful afternoon you walked out of church after leading prayers, and you were carjacked and left sprawled on the street as this individual sped away in your car and robbed you. And it's probably the only time I've ever seen the aftermath of that, the trauma of that for you, where I've seen your naturally hopeful spirit just dim a little bit, and you get a bit world weary, you know, understandably. I mean, what was that like for you, Irene, after all the good you've done for people, for that to happen to you?
Well, I suppose you can say, why me? But, you know, why not me? And it was devastating because this young lad looked so young, and he reminded me of a grandson. And I thought, how come that he's got to this stage in his life where he's going to rob and take the car of somebody who he doesn't know and haven't done him any harm at all? So I was devastated. But the thing that kept me going was there was so many people in church who really couldn't come to terms with it and really hated this young man, you know, for doing what he'd done to me. And that really struck me because I felt I had to work really hard to try and bring those people around. And the only way I could do that was to say, look, I've forgiven him. I know, you know, that lad's something in his past has brought him to this situation. And then if I can forgive him, then you can forgive him. And that's how it worked. Wow. And I could see people who were really against him because it hurt me and trying to win them over. And I'll tell you what, most of them did. I did win them over, and they showed real grace towards him.
And the thing was, it wasn't just the fact that you forgave him. What was amazing was you practically went, you know, like the Good Samaritan. It wasn't just like you helped him out and cleared off. You know, this lad, you visited him in prison. You sent him presents. And then when he got out, you aided his rehabilitation. And I think I said on the Radio 2 thing, my abiding image of you is you serving hot drinks to the homeless in church with this lad next to you, doing it with you. I mean, it was just, if you wanted a sort of a symbol of the kind of a modern day parable, it would be that. But I know that will have come at great cost, and I know that you had great opposition to that from your own family, because obviously they wanted to protect you. So what was that like then? I mean, were you frightened going to see this lad in prison? What was that like? I mean, how did the relationship happen?
I think the relationship started when I went to court, when he was charged, and I did have to read out a witness statement. And I told him in that, I said to him, you know, it wasn't too late to get himself some education while he was in there in prison, and that I would pray for him every single day for the rest of my life, which I do. And looking him in the eye, I couldn't take my eyes off him, and he stared me straight in the eyes. There was just something there. I felt there was a connection, and we had to see it through. I couldn't walk away from it. I just couldn't. And it was hard because my family were very, very wary about it all and worried about it all. So I had to keep that in context the whole time. But the rehab program where I went to visit him in the young offenders was just amazing. And I did actually grow a really close bond with him. And I think that's something that will be there for the rest of his life. And again, I don't know whether I'll see him when he comes out of this journey that he's on and really makes a go of things. I don't know whether I'll ever see that, but I do believe it will happen. And he was great when he came into church. It wasn't just me. By then, others wrapped their arms around him and really supported him. And he became part of our church family. And he said to me on one occasion in a letter, he said, I don't know what it is about sitting in the service on a Sunday morning, but I have a peace that I've never ever known in my life. And that was amazing. And that was the traditional service that he went to. And he always turned up every week.
Amazing. Because Desmond Tutu once said, didn't he, that forgiveness is not necessarily something you're doing for the other person. It's what you're doing for yourself, for your own heart. Yeah. Because if you don't forgive, then it causes a corruption, a toxicity within you. Did you feel that, Irene? Did you feel released when you felt as though you could forgive this lad?
Oh yeah, I think there's no other way of moving forward other than forgiving. And you know, we do see in some situations where people really struggle to forgive, and it gnaws away at their life. And so if I could turn that round and do some good from it, yeah, maybe, you know, I'm sure that was worth doing. To me, it was worth every moment that we spent together.
One of the most powerful bits of scripture, something that Mother Teresa used to talk about a lot, was the way that the thing that got her up in the morning, out onto the streets, helping people, the kind of things that you do, is seeing in the face of these hungry and broken people the face of Jesus himself. Yeah. And that's that. I mean, was that been your experience? Is that what you try and do?
I think we've always got to have that image that we are God's children, every one of us, and we can't turn our backs. And I find it frustrating, particularly when you watch the TV and you see some incident where, you know, youngsters have come together and done horrendous things, and you think, how can you challenge that? How can you get through that? But if you turn away, then you're not doing what you believe in, and we believe Jesus would have been there in the middle of them. So yeah, and you paint this picture of me, Matt. I'm not what everything that you say, I'll tell you.
Well, I'm about to come on to your faults, so I hope you've got another hour. No, and I don't want to paint a picture of Saint Irene, but you are to me. You've always inspired me. But what I love about you, Irene, is you've got so many faults as well. And I think that's, you know, Jesus calls people of cracked pots, crackpots, and that's what I love. That, you know, we're not all saints. We are just, you know, travelers on this crazy journey, and he calls people like you to do his work, which is amazing. And you know, and I don't want to paint a picture that Holy Trinity was this sort of very sort of solemn place. Doing this kind of ministry, it is hilarious and fun and an adventure, isn't it? When you reach out, you know, people say, "Oh, Christianity's boring." It's like, what? It's so exciting to see lives transformed and being a little bit of a part of that.
Yeah, it is. It is.
What would you say, Irene, to someone watching this who maybe is feeling a bit of compassion fatigue or struggles to forgive, or, you know, maybe dipping the toe into church life or whatever? What would your advice be based on your experiences?
I think the first thing you've got to do is get rid of all the images of what church is that you may have in your mind, and forget it all. Go through that door of the church, and you should be accepted no matter who you are. Go in there, meet people, build up a relationship, and whatever gift you have to give it. It might be small, you might think it's not important, but it takes everything to make the body complete, as it says in the scriptures. So you have something to offer, whoever you are.
Thank you. And is there I wonder if is there a saying or a phrase of Jesus that's particularly important to you, or something in the Bible that you'd like just to finish us with, that sort of sustains you in your life?
This morning, I was reading in Stephen Cottle's book this morning, the one on priesthood, which you recommended, and it was about being a deacon and serving. And when you put the stole on as a deacon, think of it as a towel to wash the feet, and where it says in Luke's gospel, where it says just for action and have your lamps lit. And I think that's very true. We can't switch them off. We've got to be there and ready, and through God's will and God's energy, because I just thank God for the energy that he gives me to do it. I couldn't do it.
How old are you now? I mean, crying out loud.
Oh, I'm ancient. Well, I'm shielded, so I'm in that category. So
Well, you look 50.
Oh, thank you, Matt. Oh, you know how I am, don't you?
Well, final thing, Irene. You've been honoured by Her Majesty the Queen. I mean, gutted for you because of the coronavirus. You didn't actually get to meet her in person, but what an amazing thing for you to receive. Totally deserved. How does that feel?
Well, it was fabulous when I got the letter. And I must admit, I was so excited about going to Windsor Castle and going to the service and having lunch or whatever you have afterwards with her. I mean, that was a great highlight. So there was the disappointment in that not happening. I hope I still might meet us, never know. But it was a great honour, and thousands of others deserve that honour. But I thank whoever it was that put me forward.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you so much, Irene, and you are an inspiration to so many of us, and I'm proud to call you one of my best friends, and a real, we need some Christian heroes in life. We're doing what we do, and you're definitely one of mine. So thank you so much, Your Majesty, Saint Irene. Thank you.
Love you lots, Matt, and your family. Bye.
Bye.
Wow, didn't I tell you that Irene is such an inspiration? Wasn't that just amazing? Thanks, Irene. So hopefully you could connect with that in some way, or that just some of it made you think of something from a different perspective. Have a really good week, and hopefully lockdown will be over soon. We can count down. See you all soon. Bye.
Upper Room Life, you're certainly in for a surprise. We got some guests and some God and some good times. It's the Upper Room.